Chapter 1. The Mysterious Letter. Sarah Mitchell stared at the letter, its parchment yellowed and brittle with age. The ink had faded, but the message was clear: there is darkness in Hollow Creek. Seek the truth if you dare. Hollow Creek had always been a place of curiosity for Sarah, a journalist with a penchant for the paranormal. She had heard rumors about the town's eerie occurrences, disappearances, strange lights in the woods, and a pervasive sense of dread among the locals. The letter was her invitation to unravel these mysteries. She showed the letter to her husband, Tom. A pragmatic man, Tom scoffed at the notion of ghosts and curses. "Sarah, you're chasing shadows," he said. "This town is probably just a bunch of old superstitions." Despite his skepticism, Tom agreed to accompany Sarah on the trip. They packed their bags and set out for Hollow Creek, unaware of the sinister welcome that awaited them. Chapter 2. Arrival at Hollow Creek. The town of Hollow Creek seemed to be frozen in time. The streets were lined with Victorian houses, their once vibrant colors now dulled by years of neglect. The few residents they encountered gave them wary glances, as if they were intruding upon a closely guarded secret. They checked into the only inn in town, the Wishing Well, a quaint establishment with creaky floorboards and faded wallpaper. The innkeeper, Mrs. Caldwell, was a haggard woman who seemed relieved to have them leave her after a brief check-in. Sarah wasted no time and began her investigation. She visited the local library, where the librarian, a middle-aged woman named Edith, was hesitant to discuss the town's history. "Not many people ask about the old records," Edith said with a hint of suspicion. "What you're looking for might be best left undiscovered." Undeterred, Sarah and Tom wandered the streets, taking note of the town's peculiar atmosphere. The dense woods that bordered Hollow Creek seemed to loom ominously, their shadows stretching like dark fingers. Chapter 3. The Abandoned House. On the outskirts of town, Sarah and Tom discovered an old, decrepit house hidden among overgrown vines and twisted trees. The mansion was a relic of a bygone era, its once grand facade now marked by decay and neglect. The air around the house felt different, heavy and oppressive. The house was rumored to be the focal point of the town's dark history. Sarah pushed open the rotting door, revealing a dimly lit interior filled with dust and cobwebs. The air inside was musty, and the silence was almost tangible. Tom was uneasy but followed Sarah through the grimy halls. In the basement, they found a hidden room with strange symbols etched into the walls. Sarah's pulse quickened. The symbols were unlike anything she had seen before, arcane, intricate, and menacing. A sense of foreboding settled over them, and Tom insisted they leave before they attracted any unwanted attention. The next day, Sarah met Lydia Gray, an elderly resident with a reputation for knowing the town's secrets. Lydia was a frail woman with piercing eyes that seemed to see through the veneer of normalcy. "I see you've found the old house," Lydia said, her voice trembling. "That place holds the key to the town's darkness. The Hollow, it's not just a place. It's a presence, a malevolent force." Lydia explained that the Hollow was once a sacred ground for a cult that worshipped an ancient entity. The cult performed rituals to gain favor from the entity, but their practices resulted in catastrophic consequences. The townsfolk had tried to bury the past, but the Hollow's influence remained. Sarah was intrigued but skeptical. She pressed Lydia for more information, hoping to piece together the fragmented history of Hollow Creek. Chapter 5. The Supernatural Unfolds. As Sarah and Tom delved deeper into their investigation, strange occurrences began to plague them. Objects moved on their own, and eerie whispers filled the silence of the night. Tom's skepticism wavered, and fear began to take root in his heart. One night, Sarah woke to find her flashlight flickering. She heard faint, mournful cries emanating from the woods. When she ventured outside to investigate, she saw shadowy figures darting between the trees, just beyond the reach of the dim light. The experiences left Sarah shaken, but they also fueled her determination. She believed the key to unraveling the Hollow's mystery lay in understanding the ritual described in Lydia's accounts. Chapter 6. The Forbidden Ritual. Sarah discovered an old journal hidden in the town's archives. The journal belonged to Victor Blackthorne, a prominent figure in the cult's history. The entries detailed the rituals performed to appease the entity and the terrible price the townspeople paid for their meddling. The ritual was a dark and twisted affair, requiring the sacrifice of those who were deemed unworthy. The entity, described as a ravenous void, thrived on fear and despair. The journal spoke of the ritual's failure and the resulting curse that bound the entity to the town. Armed with this knowledge, Sarah and Tom set out to confront the Hollow and end the curse. They returned to the abandoned house, prepared to perform a counter-ritual using the information from Victor's journal. Chapter 7: The Descent into Darkness. As they prepared for the ritual, the Hollow's influence intensified. The house seemed to warp and twist around them, and the shadows grew more menacing. Tom was increasingly paranoid, and Sarah felt a growing sense of dread. In the dead of night, they began the ritual. The air grew colder, and a palpable sense of malice filled the room. The symbols on the walls began to glow with an otherworldly light, and the temperature dropped further. The entity, a swirling vortex of darkness, began to manifest. Its presence was suffocating, and the air was thick with its malevolent energy. Sarah and Tom fought against the encroaching darkness, reciting the counter-ritual with trembling voices. Chapter 8: The Final Confrontation. The ritual reached its climax, and the entity's true form emerged, an amorphous mass of shadows and despair. It roared with a cacophony of voices, each one filled with anguish and rage. Sarah and Tom were pushed to their limits as they struggled to complete the ritual. The entity fought back, attempting to draw them into its void. Sarah felt her sanity slipping away, but she clung to the hope that their efforts would bring an end to the Hollow's curse. With one final incantation, the entity's form began to dissolve. The darkness receded, and the oppressive atmosphere lifted. The house shuddered, and the walls seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. The ritual was complete, and the Hollow's influence was broken. Chapter 9: Aftermath. The town of Hollow Creek began to change. The once ominous woods seemed less menacing, and the air was lighter. Sarah and Tom felt a sense of relief, but the experience had left its mark on them. They left Hollow Creek, their lives forever altered by the encounter with the Hollow. Sarah's investigative work was praised, but she knew that some truths were best left undisturbed. The town's history was rewritten, and the legend of the Hollow became a cautionary tale, a reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface and the price one might pay for uncovering it. Epilogue: The Lingering Shadows. Months later, Sarah received a new letter, similar to the one that had started their journey. The message was cryptic, hinting at another mystery waiting to be uncovered. As she read the letter, a chill ran down her spine. The Hollow's legacy was not as easily vanquished as she had hoped. The shadows of Hollow Creek lingered,